begin with the 23rd verse. And the text is what these gentlemen just sang so beautifully about. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 23. The plan pleased me well, so I took 12 of your men, one man from each tribe. And they departed and went up into the mountains and came to the valley of Eshcol and spied it out. They also took some of the fruit of the land in their hands and brought it down to us. And they brought back word to us, saying, It is a good land which the Lord our God is giving us. Nevertheless, you would not go up, but rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. And you complained in your tents and said, Because the Lord hates us, he has brought us out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying, The people are greater and taller than we. The cities are great and fortified up to heaven. Moreover, we have seen the sons of the Anakim there. Then I said to you, Do not be terrified or afraid of them. The Lord your God who goes before you, he will fight for you according to all he did for you in Egypt before your eyes. And in the wilderness where you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a man carries his son, in all the way that you went until you came to this place. Yet for all that you did not believe the Lord your God, who went in the way before you to search out a place for you to pitch your tents, to show you the way you should go, in the fire by night and in the cloud by day. And may the Lord add his blessing to the reading of his word today. As you can easily see, I have two measuring sticks in my hands. One much larger than the other. In fact, this one is 3 times larger than this one. They are both used for measuring, but they're not used for measuring in the same way. This one obviously is used to measure smaller things, little things, while this one is used to measure larger things, longer things, bigger things. 2 sticks, and yet very, very different in how they measure. And you say, well, that's nice, Brother Mike, but what does that have to do with our message today? Well, stay tuned and stay awake, and you'll find out. In our text, Moses has sent 12 men over into Canaan to check out the land, for the people have arrived at Canaan's doorstep. 10 of the 12 came back with one report: can't take the land. 2 of the 12, the only 2 named for obvious reasons, Caleb and Joshua, they came back with a report, yeah, we can take this land. We can take it. Now, these 12 men each saw exactly the same Canaan, did they not? They saw the same cities. They saw the same citizens. They saw the same farms and fields. They saw the same walls and forts and armies and people, trees and groves and orchards. They each saw the same thing. So why did they give 2 completely different, opposite reports and recommendations? How do you explain that? This is how you explain it. They used different measuring sticks. One group, the 10, used this stick. The 2 used this stick. I've got a name for this stick: fear. And I've got a name for this stick: faith. Fear and faith. And these 2 yardsticks which those two groups used made all the difference in the world. We have come to our Canaan, if you will, 2017. We've never been here before. It's a new land for us. Uncertainty, unsure, unrest, a lot of things. And as we enter our Canaan of 2017, we're going to face a lot of challenges, a lot of choices, and a lot of crises. And we're going to have a lot of decisions to make. And as we make our decisions and choices this year, we're going to use one of these two yardsticks. We'll use the one of fear, or we'll use the one of faith. But we will use one of these two. Now, in my message today, I want to share with you the results when God's people uses this yardstick to live their lives by and to make their choices and decisions. First of all, the measuring stick of fear disobeys God's plans. Disobeys God's plans. Moses notes this in verse 26. He says to the people, "You would not go up, but rebelled against the command of the Lord your God." Now, throughout their exit from Egypt and throughout their exodus through the wilderness, God's plan was for them to go into and take the land of Canaan. Now, this was God's command. It wasn't God's advice. It wasn't his suggestion. It wasn't his counsel. It wasn't his hint. It wasn't even his opinion. No, it was his command and plan for their life. And it had not changed, and it was not going to change. And these people knew this. But because they measured Canaan with this stick, the stick of fear, instead of this stick, the stick of faith, they disobeyed God. And my friends, this still holds true. Whenever we live by this stick, we will disobey God's plan for our life. Secondly, the yardstick or measuring stick of fear distorts God's purpose. Look in verse 27. Now, if you want to mark something in your Bible ridiculous, you mark this verse right here for one of the most ridiculous beliefs you'll find. These people accused the Lord of hating them and bringing them into the desert to be destroyed. Yeah, right. God sent those plagues on the people of Egypt because he hated his people. That makes sense, doesn't it? And then when they got out of Egypt, God parted the Red Sea for these people to pass because he hated these people. And then once they got through the Red Sea, he brought the sea back together and destroyed Pharaoh's army because he hated these people. And then once they got out into the wilderness, he sent them a cloud and a fire to lead and guide them because he hated them. And then he sent them down from heaven every day a new fresh supply of manna to eat. Why did he do that? Because he hated them. And when they got thirsty and didn't have anything to drink, he brought water for them out of a rock. Why did he do that? Because he hated them. And now he's brought them to the doorstep of Canaan so they can go in and take Canaan. And why did he do that? Because he hates us. Find me a nuttier belief in the Bible than that right there. Crazy. And yet, folks, they believed it because they was using this stick. That's the power of fear. It distorts God's love into hatred in our minds and hearts. It distorts his purpose of deliverance into one of destruction. That's the power of fear. It distorts God's purpose for us. And then thirdly, the stick of fear discourages God's people. Verse 28, Moses notes how their negative report discouraged the people's heart. As these 10 men stood up and gave their report of the size and strength of Canaan, as they gave their pessimistic gloom and doom, we can't do it report, well, all the people were discouraged. Their dreams and desires were dashed. Their hopes and hearts failed. Their encouragement was removed and replaced with discouragement. This "we can't do it" attitude of those 10 spread like mumps and measles throughout the whole camp. This is, again, the power of fear. There's nothing more contagious than fear and discouragement. It's more contagious than the common cold. And now, with this report, Moses has an epidemic and a plague of fear on his hands. And it all got started with the bug and germ of using the wrong measuring stick. I promise you, my friends, live by this stick and you will be discouraged. Live by fear and you will be discouraged. And then next of all, the stick of fear disbelieves God's promise. Moses speaks to this in the last several verses, verses 29 through 33. He reminds the people how God had kept every promise that he had ever made to these people. He had promised to bring them out of Egypt. He brought them out of Egypt. He had promised to bring them through the wilderness, to fight for them, and to carry them through the wilderness. He had done that. He had promised them the promised land of Canaan, and here they are right on the doorstep. God had faithfully and fully kept every promise he'd ever made to these people. But now, all of a sudden, they don't believe he's going to keep this promise. They don't think he can keep the promise and actually give them Canaan. And how could they believe such a thing? Because they used this yardstick right here. They used the stick of fear. And again, that's the power and pull of fear. It causes people to disbelieve the promises of the God who cannot lie. As we've arrived at our new year, the land of the unknown, the land of challenges, we got a choice, folks. We got a choice. We can live by this, the yardstick of fear, or we can live by the yardstick of faith. As we make our choices and decisions in life, and we will, we'll use one of these two. But before we close, let me remind you something. The 10 guys that used this, did they ever see Canaan? The 2 guys that used this, did they see Canaan? Yeah. They not only saw it, they took it. You see the point? You see the point? It's as clear as the nose on our face. What does the Bible tell us? The just shall live by fear? No. The just shall live by faith. What does the Bible tell us? God's given us a spirit of fear? No. He's given us a spirit of faith. And he expects us to live by faith. He expects us to make our choices and decisions by faith and not by fear. Our hymn of invitation today is near to the heart of God. Let me ask you a question. Do you think you can get near to God's heart using this? Do you? No. You get near to God's heart by using this, by living by faith. And that's our invitation. Get rid of this. It does you no good. Live by this. Live by this. That's how we should live this year, individually, personally, and collectively as a church. So this is our invitation today. You can come to the front, you can stay where you're at, that's up to you. But our invitation for each one of us is to live 2017 by this, by faith. That's our invitation.